everyone, it's Speaker Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you and a continued build up to James Gunn's 2025 Superman project. I thought I'd take a look back at previous cinematic outings featuring the world's greatest ever superhero. So with this edition we will take a look back at Superman Returns. Released on June 28th, 2006, it has the newcomer actor Bryan Routh in the title role, starring alongside Kevin Spacey, Kate Bosworth, Frank Langella, James Marsden and Eva Marie Saint and Parker Posey. And the movie was directed by Bryan Singer. Being the first Superman movie in 19 years after the much derided Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, this acts as some sort of unofficial sequel to Superman 2 and conveniently ignores both parts 3 and 4. This time around we have a Superman who has returned to Earth after 5 years spent searching for the remains of his home planet Krypton. His longtime nemesis Lex Luthor has been released from prison and has swindled an old rich widow out of her fortune, and he uses that fortune to locate the Fortress of Solitude and obtain the Kryptonian crystals. Luthor plans to use the power from the crystals to build a massive landmass to help dominate the world. Adjusting back to his life as both the world's protector and also as Clark Kent, the Daily Planet reporter in Metropolis, Superman bemoans the fact that Lois Lane has seemingly moved on with a new fiancé named Richard and a 5-year-old son named Jason. As Superman looks to rebuild his relationship with Lois, he is eventually kidnapped by Luthor as he looks to build his landmass. Superman finds himself once more in confrontation with his most dangerous villain as he also looks to save the world again. So when looking back at Superman Returns, overall I feel it's not a bad Superman movie, it's just a bit of a bland Superman movie. It has all the basic fundamentals of Superman in terms of his story and saving the planet, the romance of Lois and the battle against Lex. And tonally it's very appropriate, it has a very light-hearted feel about it without either being too comedic or being too dour. It's a movie that's suitable for both children and adults, and you do certainly get some action and spectacle. But one of my major issues with this film has always been the fact that it's very uninspired. Despite some great moments aside, it lacks a certain imagination and invigoration, verve and also freshness. I look at first the overall look at the film, which has this very muted contrast and faded sepia tone about it. It's not horrible to look at, no, but it just lacks a certain vibrancy, colour and energy. The other disappointing aspect is how safe the movie plays it. Every bit the nostalgic love letter to the iconic Christopher Reeve movies, from the opening credits, the use of John Williams' musical score, recreating the Lois and Superman flying sequence once more, alongside Lex's landmass ambitions. Now whilst I will always love the Christopher Reeve movies and he still remains the most iconic interpretation of the character within all of culture, I didn't want a beat for beat recreation, as you simply cannot recreate the standing and performance, and at the same time this brings around a lack of originality and creativity. And in that aspect we look at Bryan Routh's Superman and Clark Kent. This is an actor who had potential to be a great Superman for the modern time that this movie was released, but his interpretation, especially as Clark, feels borderline impersonation of Christopher Reeve, and you simply cannot do that as nobody can ever compare to Reeve's portrayal. Now Bryan Routh certainly looks the part in his Superman costume, but he does lack a certain charisma and personality and authority, and sadly he just ends up being a blank slate. We then look at his costume as well, which I was never a fan of. The S emblem is simply too small and the cape is too dark, much more of a burgundy red, again lacking that vibrancy and colour, much like the look of the entire movie. Kate Bosworth's Lois Lane also lacks the same spirits and sprites of versions that came before and after this movie. Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor is okay, but nothing memorable or certainly magnetic in the same vein that Gene Hackman was from the Richard Donner movies, and there's no real depth or substance in terms of this overall character. It is really more Kevin Spacey being more his natural personality. Now as I mentioned before, there are some bright spots throughout the film, most notably and easily the best sequence of the entire movie, which is Superman's plane rescue earlier on throughout the film, and it's a superbly executed sequence, exciting and thrilling as every bit of that Superman-esque moments that any Superman movie would be worthy of. It's absolutely a joy to watch, and despite some moments later on in the climactic half of the movie where Superman is saving citizens in Metropolis, nothing else in the film reaches the same heights as this particular scene. I do also have to mention, which was for me the worst part of the story, and this is the introduction of Superman's son, which is known as Jason. A simply ridiculous idea to suggest, and also badly advised to leave it so late within the movie. Now, I've never been a fan of Superman being a parent, as I truly believe that his role protecting the world will just take up too much of his time for him to be a sufficient parent and look after young kids. Now, while some iterations have actually executed the idea very well, this movie sadly doesn't, introducing the whole concept without any time to fully develop it, and it's something that we will never see follow through in future installments. So we then move on to the movie's performance at the box office, where it managed to gross $391 million worldwide from a budget of $200 plus million. And despite Superman Returns being in the top 10 highest grossing films of the year, it didn't quite bring in the same returns that Warner Brothers were hoping for, especially when you look at how high that budget was. Now, it did gain a good critical reception, though not quite as strong as what convinced Warner Brothers to follow up Batman Begins, which came out a year before, and that movie had almost identical box office returns. But Superman Returns had very little cultural resonance post its release, and I think once more it's because it tried to repeat and recreate what went on before, and it didn't really excite audiences as what we saw with Batman Begins, which seemed to present something we hadn't seen before in terms of how Batman became to be exactly. And Superman Returns has the character of Superman himself, fine, but nothing truly spectacular or exhilarating to really justify the character, and it just ends up being sadly a very bland Superman movie overall. So there's my overall thoughts and feelings when looking back at Superman Returns from 2006. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other further suggestions regarding any other movies, television series, or any other topics within the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know within the comments, and I'll see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.